I figured it would start off giving a little history of the Green Pond Hotel and what it was like in the 30s and 40s. Most of us were, what do I call it? We were vacationers coming up to Green Pond, and a lot of people from the inner cities came up to places like Green Pond or the Catskills. There were a lot of big hotels in the Catskills. Most of them have gone under, like Green Pond has. If you look at the pictures of the hotel and you visualize, starting from the left-hand side, the restaurant took, I'd say one third of the front of the hotel. It was a beautiful restaurant. It overlooked the lake, which is still beautiful. And then in the middle of it was the stairwell going upstairs, and then the front desk, which was manned in my day by a teacher from Butler. In the far end, as you look at it, on the right-hand side, was a game room, and not a game per se, it was more like a lounge. People congregated there at night playing bridge, canasta, bingo, all sorts of games. And perhaps the best night of the year for most of the people was the dance held every Saturday night in the community house. Everybody got dressed up. And then the people who were standing above the community house across the street from in the hotel or on the veranda, and they'd listen to the music. I remember one of the names was Allison Barton, the band. And they watched the people dance, and as I said before, they all had coats and ties and dinner dresses. It was quite an event for everybody. In that lounge room, every night they had some sort of a game or sing-along. One of the songs I remember was The Dodo Bird and the Coca-Cola Tree. Anybody know that song? I don't know where it came from, but it struck my mind as funny at that time. The part of the hotel was where the stand is now, was a game, like the boardwalk down in the shore. They had skee ball and all sorts of games, and you won tickets and you got prizes. Typical, what you might call boardwalk amusements. Eventually that changed, and they moved all the activities over to the community house and made that where the stand is now. They made that a annex with rooms for the hotel, and that lasted quite a while. The stand, the ice cream stand, which was originally in that building, moved over to the community house, and I think somebody here, father ran the ice cream stand.
Mulcahy?
No, it wasn't his name was Elmer Cook. His daughter is sitting right there.
Oh, hello.
And Elmer was a good guy. I have to say that. No, he was a lot of fun. But the ice cream stand then opened up into the community house, and it was screened in on the porch so that there were tables sitting on the what is now the open porch leading into the community house. So it was a real ice cream parlor. Now, one of the things that was different then, in my day, the community house was open every night to the teenagers, and they didn't have any chaperones. We were allowed to use the community house. The girls particularly, they hung around the community house and they loved to dance. Matter of fact, once a week the man would come up to replace the records in the jukebox, and the girls would all give him a hard time on which records they wanted and which ones they wanted taken out. But we had a lot of fun in the community house. I shouldn't say it, but I wish they'd open the community house to the children now. Everybody's worried about what damage they did or could do, but I don't think the kids in Green Pond, there's enough chaperones and enough people that get around and would keep the place under control. We had the shuffleboard tables in there, we had ping pong, and it was it's where most of it tried to learn how to dance. Most of us weren't very good at it. The girls were good. One thing I forgot to mention, the restaurant in the hotel served dinners to all the clubs, the Mickeys, the Sub-Devs, the Rinky Dinks, the Cottage Club. They all had their annual dinners in there, and it was something we all looked forward to. I've got notes here, and I can't read them anyhow. One of the big events in my day was the regatta. It was always looked forward to. It was usually a Saturday at about this time in August. Sometimes it was freezing cold swimming. Other times we had a day like today. But we had canoe races. They had canoe singles races, canoe doubles races, canoe quads, 4 people in a canoe, half girls, half boys. Seldom did the canoe quads finish. They usually tipped over. But one of the things they also had, we had the greased pole, which was a telephone pole tied down to the old lane dock that went out over the water, and it had flags at the end, and you had to walk out and grab the flags. Most of us fell off. The greased pole usually won. The big prize was a watermelon. And if you won that, you didn't get away with it. So you had to share it right then and there. So, and one of the things that I remember personally was in the beginning we had wool bathing suits. Now, none of you people know what a wool bathing suit is, but they itch like hell. And it was not only male but female bathing suits. We were not too classy. One of the things that happened though in the regatta, I remember, because it affected my life a great deal, was the coach of Blair Academy came down for the regatta, and if he liked the way you swam, he offered you a scholarship to Blair, or a partial scholarship. And there was a lot of fellas from Green Pond here, Rise, Matusis, myself. That's how we got to Blair. We got scholarships. We waited tables, and it was quite a time for me in my life. Switching gears, we're standing to my right was a place called Stagger Inn, and after World War II, a lot of the fellows who had come back used that as a hangout. Because they had the 52-20 club, which is, you got 52 weeks at $20 a week to pay for your service. Excuse me. But one of the other things that was going on at the Stagger Inn was that's where the rinky dinks met, and we were pretty informal then because most of the adults were tied up in the war effort. We sort of made ourselves a club without much guidance. So, and the ball field was off to my right where it is now, but it was a lot different than the left field was in a hole. If you played left field, you could only see the third baseman from the waist up. So there was quite a few errors made, to say the least. One of the things that happened on the ball field was we had donkey baseball. I don't know where they got the donkeys. They had a man come up with a whole herd of donkeys, and you batted normally, but then you had to jump on a donkey and get to first base. And that was difficult because the donkeys were dancing all around, and we were all rooting for somebody to get knocked on his keister, and it was a lot of fun. We also had something Kathy alluded to, Johnny Morris. Mr. Hanson was I think a vice president of Philip Morris. He brought the Philip Morris team up here to play Green Pond. And Johnny Philip Morris, I don't know, I think Kathy did a better imitation. Call for Philip Morris. And then he drove a little MG around the streets, and I have a picture of myself with him. I didn't bring it. but he was a, I don't know whether it's politically correct now, but he was a midget. And he had a little energy. And that was the Philip Morris logo. So he came. And the other teams that came up were local teams, some from Pagoda, some from Butler, some from Kearney. And they were always something. It was always a lot of fans rooting. It was a lot of fun. Nobody took it serious, and it was always. I know that a team called the Aces. They always had a strawberry festival up Notch Road in the woods after the game. We young ones were not supposed to get up there, but we'd sneak in the woods and watch. So,
doesn't sound like much chaperoning in your day either.
well, the story I have a funny story about the chaperones. One time at a board meeting, one of the fellas suggested that we police the rocks. She made the comment we didn't know what was going on up there. But he was voted down because the consensus was we didn't care to know what was going on. It was up to the parents. And but it so happened that a few days later I had a lady at our house for lunch who was very prim and proper. I told her about what this director wanted to do, and she came off with a little giggle. Said, says, I used to go up there too. So it's an old-fashioned thing that's gone on. There was also, it wasn't funny, was there a couple of murders in Green Pond, or close to it. One of them was a mafia execution, and he was stuffed in the sewer on the way down the back mountain here. And our policeman here was part of the group that had to pull him out. The other one was along the West Shore, and it was always very suspicious to everybody. The man and his wife were out in a canoe. Those of you who know the West Shore, it's very shallow over there, and according to what they were told, she fell out of the canoe in about 2.5 feet of water and drowned.
Her dress pulled her down.
What?
Her heavy dress pulled her down.
Yeah. Nobody ever solved it, and nobody was ever accused, but it was always very suspicious.
Like up in Cape Cod, same thing. It's not that deep up that bridge. What year was that?
Russ, about what year was the lady out of the canoe?
That was in the 40s.
I'll see if I can find something in the papers. I love it.
The other place, and Kathy knows this story, was Heavenly West, which was the boarding house, or not the boarding house, the accommodations for the cooks and the waitresses in the hotel. The cooks were not allowed above the second floor, and the waitresses were a lot of local girls and some girls from Butler. And we were not supposed to be up on the third floor at any time. But we used to sneak up there, because I remember one time I had to hang on to the outside window because Charlie the cop was coming up after us. So,
You were bad.
no, just nosy.
So did Charlie the cop do regular checks on the third floor?
Pardon?
Did Charlie the cop do like a regular check every night on the third floor?
Well, Charlie the cop was a real nice guy. He lived in the house right over here. And you never knew when he was going to come. That was the problem. And he'd just chase us, and he knew who we were, and we didn't get. We thought we were getting away with a lot, but we weren't. The other thing that might be of interest too, I happened to work on a garbage truck for the corporation then. When I meet people who I think are a little uppity, and they ask me what I did, I tell them I was a garbage man. And we used to take the garbage and go into, if you go down the back mountain, there's a driveway that's closed off to the left, right at the bottom of the mountain. And there were two mine holes back in there. And that's where we dumped all the garbage from Green Pond. I don't know how we got away with it or how Green Pond got away with it, but it happened for a few years. Prior to that, they had an incinerator up here, and that's where most of the garbage for this place went. Because one of the things we had was bottle pickup. We knew the houses where a lot of empty bottles came, and we used to put them aside so we could take them up and shoot them. So, drainage was a huge problem, and it still is now for some places. The first drain that I ever knew was on Bonnie Bray. They put in a pipe across from Mike's house over into the field here, and there was a drainage ditch. And that drain, that was a big step, because during as Melanie alluded, there was a big step in trying to control the water that was coming out of the antiquated septic systems. And that started the whole drainage system, which now is pretty good, although I don't think Green Pond is really ever going to solve it unless they put in a huge system, because we're built on a bog, most of us. One of the things that I remember was, as a teenager up here, most of the guys and girls had jobs. Either you worked in the hotel, or you worked in the maintenance group, collecting garbage, cutting the fields, putting in docks. We used to start early in June and go up in the woods and cut poles to put the docks in. It meant driving them into the bottom of the lake and it was cold. And I don't know, I think I always got boots with holes in them. But it was a difficult chore, and it was one of the jobs we all had. Taking care of the tennis courts was another one. I did that when I was 14.
What did they pay you for that? What was your salary?
I don't remember what the salary was. It couldn't be much. And then, of course, you had the stand.
This isn't a new cough, is it?
No.
No?
It's an advertisement for not to smoke.
Okay.
I haven't smoked in 20 years. But there was a lot of jobs. Roger Snyder's father ran the Dugan bakery truck every day through here. Bob Johnson had a vegetable route. He drove early in the morning to the Patterson market, and he'd come up here and sell vegetables. My brother and I had the milk route in the early 50s. We used to deliver 1,000 quarts a day up here. It paid a lot for my college education, for whatever it was. Pardon? If I remember right, it was 31 cents a quart delivered. We bought it through Ideal Farms, which was Bill Tanis's company out of North Haledon. So there was a lot of work for the teams that we all participated in, and I don't know what everybody spent the money on, probably over at the ice cream stand. But there were a lot, our entertainment was really parties on the rocks, go to Franklin to a movie every once in a while. My wife, my girlfriend then, and I and a few of us used to walk down to Egbert's Lake at the bottom of the back mountain to go square dancing. It was a long walk, but we were young and it didn't make any difference. And we had a lot of fun down there. And we had a lot of fun here with spelling bees. They had movie nights here at 10 cents, got you into the movie. They hired us as young kids to set up and take down the chairs for the movies. And for that, you got into the movie free. One of the things that, and I'll close with this, although we had a lot of pranksters here in Green Pond. And I'll tell you a couple of the stories that didn't happen necessarily when I was just a teenager, but at one point I happened to, my wife and I bought the boarding house on Johnson Road, and I just had the driveway paved. It was gravel up until then. And I got up in the morning, it was a Sunday morning, looked out the bedroom window, and I saw a white line coming from Johnson Road through my driveway. And I said a few expletives, and I said, those blankety blanks, they painted my driveway, and I just put it in yesterday. And the funny part was some woman came driving in, and our car was parked there, and she honked the horn to move the car. As it turned out, it was flour. But another one was, a lot of you remember Jack Fox.
She asked if you ever knew who did it. Did you ever find out who did it?
Oh, I knew who did it right away. But Jack Fox, who just passed recently, Jack had a cookie business. He sold all the cookies to Girl Scouts for their sales. And he was a prankster, so they decided to pay him back. And they loaded an outhouse into a truck and parked the outhouse in front of his house. And put a big sign on it, Jack's Cookie Factory. And they took the time. Jack kept saying, take the damn thing back. And they wouldn't say, it was there for about a week. And at one point, one of the women had a Halloween dummy on the front porch. They swiped the dummy and set it on the throne in the outhouse, which got her a little aggravated too. So there was a lot of pranksters like that.
Then or were you kids?
We were adults. Or so we thought.
Sort of adults.
So I think I'd just assume I don't know, anybody have any questions, interruptions? Maybe you can add things to it.
Show those pictures that you have.
I have a couple of pictures. One showing a camp on old land. I think it's the Bang House, or what used to be Bang House, next to Doolittle's now. I don't really know. My mother-in-law had it. She used to come up here as a girl, and she talked about walking with a horse and wagon and walking up the Green Pond Mountain to get here. And then also talked about having a car and having to get out part way up because you couldn't make it all the way up. I guess that was quite common.
And you have some stamps, the stamps, the gas rationing stamps?
Oh, yeah, Melanie said last time here that these are war ration coupons from World War II. And this is what we had to have in order to get meat or gas or sugar, as I remember. And they also have a war bond book that we used to paste in these stamps. And you went to school and you spent a quarter for a stamp, and you tried to fill up the stamp book for 1875 to get a war bond. And it was in old schools. I still have these. I never finished them. I don't know whether the government would honor them yet or not.
The accrued interest should be pretty good.
So, anybody wants to look at them, they can after this. I don't even know why I saved them. The other thing I perhaps overlooked was what happened here during the war years. The men all commuted, or the people that worked in New York or down in the suburbs of New Jersey, used to take the train at the bottom of the hill every Monday. And then the wives would drive them down, they'd carpool down, they'd take the train, and they would come back on Friday evening, and they'd be picked up. Because the gas rationing didn't allow unless you had, I think it was, what kind of a necessary job for the war effort. And then you got more allowance for gas. Anybody else have any questions?
Tell us about your involvement in the 70s about buying Green Pond from a wealthy York family. Tell us about this. I know you were instrumental in that.
Again,
About how you bought Green Pond and from.
Mrs. Dawson was she inherited Green Pond from Dudley Dawson, and she originally, or they lived in Boonton, and then they moved to Florida. Dudley also had a ranch in Texas. But Mrs. Dawson was a widow. She was a doctor at a time when female doctors were not too common. She had 2 children. The son had no interest in Green Pond. The daughter also had no interest in Green Pond, although Mrs. Dawson had fond memories of the place. And it got to a point where Green Pond was on 25-year leases for the whole property, and they were not, there was nothing in the leases that said that at the conclusion of the time that you had any rights to have it you didn't have any right to have it renewed. I was worried myself that with Marilyn, which was her daughter, if she inherited, we would have been in trouble. And the lease had, I've forgotten how many years left to run. I thought it was a smart move to try and talk with her and get the to get see if she was willing to part with Green Pond. As it turned out, she was. And she was the heir, along with the co-trustee, which was Hanover Bank. And she agreed that she would sell it to us if the bank agreed. And the bank had the bank had I guess the combination of the two. The bank had the right to say no. They said yes, and Mrs. Dawson only requirement was that Green Pond be sold to the people of Green Pond and not to a private person or not to not developed. And that was her wishes. And so that's how the purchase came about.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
For us.
So, Mr. Clerk, what year was that? Because I remember they changed Lakefront, right, the street Lakefront to Dawson Drive when that purchase was made. Is that true? The Dawson Drive.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time.
Dawson Drive, which was used to be Lakefront. We called it
Yes.
Lakefront. And part of the purchase of the land from Mrs. Dawson was to name it Dawson Drive along Lakefront.
That was not something she asked for.
Oh, no, I don't think it was something she had. It was something we did, that Green Pond did for her.
The board decided that to honor her, we would call it Dawson Drive.
Yes.
So,
What year was that?
but
What year do you think it was when that purchase was made from?
I think it was 1968.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay.
I know.
Somewhere around there, yeah. No, because I remember that.
There was a lot of. It so happened that there was a lot of purchases of